Hello and welcome to Audio Book Reviews. This review will be on The Black Cauldron, which is Book 2 in the Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. I did last week a review of the Book of 3, the first book, and am now continuing on here with Book 2. Now, this book starts out where we left Book 1. Taryn is back at Dalbin's farm. Eilonwy's still there, Gurgi is still there, so we see those characters right off the bat. But the call to action here starts out pretty quickly. There's going to be a council. Gwydion and these other warlords are coming. Not that anyone told Taryn about this, but he finds out pretty quickly when he has a run-in with, probably mispronouncing this again with the too many syllables from these Welsh names, but Eleider. And Eleider comes and immediately they're not getting along, sees him taking care of Henwen, calls him pig boy, when clearly he's assistant pig keeper. It's much more important, of course. And we're kind of shown that this is going to be an interaction we're going to be seeing. These two not getting along, Eleider looking down on him, thinking he's better, and not even really wanting to deign to talk to him. We get this, though. Taryn is deemed to be old enough to be a part of the council, and as we find out, he's actually going to be included in what's going on. And this is where we find out, continuing on from some themes and some things that were talked about a little bit in the first book, they're going to go on a quest to steal the Black Cauldron from the evil Lord Aran in Anuvan. The Black Cauldron is what's actually used to create the Cauldron-born, which are basically these kind of zombie undead creatures that are essentially impossible to kill because they're already dead, and these fearsome warriors that Aran is creating. They see that he's ramping it up, and they decide they need to go in and steal it. So Gwydion, these other kings, warlords are all going to be going. Taryn's going to be going along as well, of course, placed in a group that includes Eleider. And we're introduced to Adon, probably mispronouncing again, who is a bard and talked about as being a very knowledgeable character who's kind of been all around the world as well. Fluterflam, of course, is coming along as well. And we see Dolly, the dwarf from the Fair Folk in Book 1 as well, coming along. So, kids' book, you got to have all your main characters back. Makes sense. Now, the journey starts off in general. And one thing I do want to point out is Prydain does have a map, and I am a huge fan of fantasy novels having a map. Here's looking at you, First Law Trilogy. One thing that annoyed me right off the bat is the map shows lines where they're going on the journey in each book, but it doesn't look like it's quite right, because early on it says they cross over a river, and that's not shown to really be on the route, and so I know it's a kid's book, probably looking too much into it, but if you're going to give me a map, then follow the map and be correct. It's a minor nitpick there. But the journey goes on, and it really pretty quickly goes in a bit of a different way than you would really expect. This book is a lot darker than the Book of 3 was, really by far. There were kind of flashes of things, and there was some battles and some death, but not really a lot of it touching the main character, so to speak. And the book really sets up where we're going to see Taryn actually start to grow. That's such a huge thing. I don't care if it's kids' book. Characters need to grow. And really the point of the book and what it started in the Book of 3 was Taryn going from being this naive child into eventually, once we get toward the end of the series, getting up to adulthood and coming into his own. So seeing him grow, the character of Eilonwy grow as well, was something that was very much appreciated on my part. We see as well, too, with things taking a darker turn, they go, and at this point, I should mention I'm going to get into spoilers. I'm trying to keep those to a minimum for these quick hit videos, but I'm going to get in a little bit. I'll put in the description on where you can skip to. But moving on, we see things don't really go well. They get there and the cauldron is gone, and Taryn and his group end up being separated from Gwydion and the others because they're being chased by the huntsmen, which are they're living creatures at least, but they're these other just crazed warriors that have evil powers from Aran, and they end up deciding the only thing that they can do is go and try to find the Black Cauldron. They stop at a waypost to the Fair Folk, they're given directions, and they move on, and so off they go. Now you keep seeing Taryn and Eleider clash quite a lot. Ellider is made out to just be not a good character, and it's mentioned by Adon, who you find out later has a brooch that allows him to see and feel things and have kind of affinity for people and nature. That he says there's a black beast on his shoulders, which is talking about his pride, his ego, his desire for glory above all else. And so you know there's going to be something happening there. He ends up getting separated. They get separated from Dolly as well. And so it's really Taryn, Gurgi, Alanwi, and Fluter who are moving on. They face a lot of hardship. They get to the place where the Black Cauldron's supposed to be, and there's these three witches there, or enchantresses, and they basically, for one, talk about how they're going to turn them into toads for a while, but then just turn them away and say, nope, there's nothing we can do. You find out they do have the cauldron, and it's introduced that they're not actually evil, even though they had it and they're the original owners. They had given it to the evil lord a while back, but they're kind of this middle ground. They're not evil, they're not good, they just are. And they end up being saved because they had actually raised Dalben, the great enchanter, who had in turn raised Taryn. And Taryn has to make a personal sacrifice in order to get the cauldron and try to complete this quest, because he's really actually trying to complete the quest and realizes that things are more important. Now, what I like here too is it's also, it could seem like it's going to be simple. A lot of children's books would just say, yep, it worked out. But they find out now, in order to actually destroy it, somebody has to willingly give up their life, get inside of it. It'll destroy the cauldron, but it will kill that person. Already a pretty real theme. It moves on. They're betrayed by a lighter, which you definitely saw coming. He takes the cauldron. He's going to completely take credit. And you have a moment too where Taryn decides, I'm going to actually let him take credit. I'd rather that this succeed. I'll be honorable on my own. And it's kind of him starting to grow up a little bit. But it's not over there, because they're actually betrayed again. They run into one of the warlords who had been with Gwydion. They think they're saved, and now he wants to take the cauldron and use it for his own devices. And so, once again, keeping it a bit dark and showing this character, it's almost Boromir-like, where he's actually kind of got good reasons for wanting it. He's trying to turn the tide in the war, but he's given a little bit more evil, where it's more about the power that he wants. But in these books, it really, Lloyd Alexander strays away from just saying this person is evil, this person is good. Even at the end, Gwydion, the 100% good hero character, says, no, there's good and bad in everyone. Nobody is 100% either way, and there are the shades of gray. And it really strays away from the trope of 100% bad guy, 100% good guy. And notably in here, both kind of villains in the story are characters of the heroic party originally. So it gets a little bit different, and it ends with Taryn realizing in general that growing up is maybe not all it's cracked up to be. Things are a lot darker, and he realizes that he'd been naive. So really, with the characters growing, I really enjoy the way that this story went. It doesn't take the easy way out. There is definitely some Deus Ex Machina in there to move the story along a little bit. I wouldn't really expect there not to be, but once again, I'm just very impressed with how Lloyd Alexander crafts a story that is simple, and it is meant for a younger audience, but there's a lot of depth to it, and there's lessons in there as well that aren't shoved down your throat, but are put in a way that's easy to understand, and really is encouraging a viewpoint of the world different than what you might get in more cut and dry children's fantasy. I did quite enjoy this book. I will be reading the next book, The Castle of Lear. That review should be posted next Wednesday, hopefully on time. This video is still on Wednesday, but technically late. If you did enjoy this review, want to see the rest of them when they come out, or other reviews that I have done and will do, please feel free to subscribe.